Now we talked yesterday about tensegrity, and this is an application of tensegrity where any force can be decomposed in tension and compression components. And we do that because in the body, shear is the enemy. Not that we cannot do structures that resist shear, but the shear, a structure able to resist shear has to be clumsy, heavy. It's not a very good use of materials. So basically we have two types of materials, collagen and bones. And we would like to have all forces channeled into this, like in this particular airplane. Now we needed some control inputs to execute the calculation for the model. And for the tensile elements, we knew there were Pachinian corpuscles because I read the literature from time to time. And so the problem was reasonably solved at that level. Now for the bone itself, I have a problem. Sure, we can calculate what happens in the bone if we know what happens in the ligaments. But I cannot imagine the brain doing those complex calculations all the time, at least not me at my age. So we had to measure the stress directly. And where might be the stress sensors could be in the periosteum. And the reason I say that is that the periosteum is very tightly wrapping the bone. And if the bone is subject to stress, the periosteum will be the first one to grumble. And in the periosteum, we found alpha nerve cells. Now think about it. Alpha nerve cells is the fastest transmission system in the body. Why on earth would you have a high-speed transmission system? We're not talking of pain here. A high-speed transmission system from the periosteum to the brain. And that's the subject of research. Is it true that periosteum will react as the bone is subjected to stress? Now, to explain again this ligament fascia system, this is a crowbar, and you can see the further away from the fulcrum, the more efficient it is to lift the nail. So there is less compression in this situation than in that particular situation. And it's not by luck that the lumbodorsal fascia is at the almost outside of the body, the further away from the fulcrum, because it is the most efficient position to be. In fact, the fascia is so efficient that if you do it right, you will shut down your muscles. You don't need them. This is called muscle relaxations during lifting. So we decided to improve Bartholing by realizing that there is a trade-off between muscle and fascia activities. You do not load a tissue continuously. You will oscillate between tissues. How much is what? Well, for heavy lift, I'm talking of Olympic kind of people, the muscle can only do 20% of the job, the fascia 80%. So be very careful with the collagen. It is the collagen that works. Because when it works, it costs nothing in terms of metabolic and energy consumption. It's a cable. And look at those people who do not have the benefit of health care. They work paying very much attention to their back. And this is the trunk flexors, the ligament, the fascia is tightened, transmit forces, muscles are relaxed. This fellow does the same thing, but this time he tightens the fascia by counter-rotating the pelvis. And so the flex spine permits muscle relaxations, and that lowers stress and energy costs. This has been measured by assessing the oxygen consumptions during a leg lift, back lift, or freestyle. And contrary to what is recommended by OSHA, you should not go for a leg lift because it is very inefficient. Now, flex spine is much better because it permits you to do things at minimum energy. If you look at a fetus, here's a curved spine. It would be a bad idea to be born with a flat spine and get hurt at the output. Now, if you look at those little boys, they have an immature fascia because the ossification of the vertebra is not done, so forces cannot be transmitted. And you see what's interesting is that they move like people with a low back pain. And therefore the idea is that, hey, low back pain could be a consequence of collagen damage. So people with low back pain, in fact it's known, have a significant increase in muscle activities. It's known for 30 years or 40 years. And the force transmission system is quite universal. This is a quadruped, and look, this flexion extension would deliver the power for locomotions is the same thing which we have during our flexion extension in the sagittal plane. And we use that motion all the time during various sports activity. So the posture which you take to do anything is in fact an attempt to use a power lift, which is use your fascia. You have to bring the fascia in, and you will take whatever position is necessary to deliver the power. So the fascia is needed to transmit power to the upper extremities. If you remove the fascia, you will be suboptimal. Now, the lumbodorsal fascia is an interesting structure here, and the collagen fibers, you can see, are linked this way. This is the lateral raphe, and when you tighten the transversus abdominis, what happens is that you bring the tip of the transverse processes closer together. Now, Poisson is a French engineer 150 years ago, determined what he called the ratio of how much travel you have here versus how much travel you have here. And the best tissue have a Poisson ratio of 1, which is 1 inch here will generate 1 inch there. The fascia has a Poisson ratio of 1. This is the ultimate in efficiency. And this is an example which I did to show you how contraction of transversus extends the spine. Because what bothered me was when you have a weightlifter, he fires his abdominals. Don't tell me he fires the abdominals to go down. It will make sense. He fires his abdominals because there is a gearbox called the fascia that brings him in reverse. So there is a benefit to have a tummy. If the internal abdominal pressure is high, the fascia is flat. It has to be flat to be efficient. It has to be flat. And you can see here that those fellows are very powerful men. Very powerful men. And they do everything they can to have the maximum power on the fascia. So having a big tummy is not a sign of weakness. And that's one of the benefits of research. But we can have our cake and eat it also. You see, fascia can also flex the spine. When you do curl up, what you do, you lower your abdominal pressure, and then you use the fascia to bring you down. So you see, the internal abdominal pressure is not here to push on the diaphragm to help you. It controls the fascia efficiency. A high pressure, you go in extensions. A low pressure, you go in flexion. That's why with the low IAP pressure of the order of the systolic pressure, because the blood always comes back, it will be a bad idea to expel the blood to the legs. The abdominal pressure role is to permit the fascia to work correctly. So the internal abdominal pressure does not provide any force on the diaphragm, and it does help to control the fascia. So at this point, in short, if the fascia is damaged, the patient cannot be rehabilitated, and you get a fundamental instability. Now, I don't like the term instability because it is misused daily. The vertebrae are not constructed for static structural stability.